Welcome back to my page, Dr. Okoya Ebasi. Today we are going to look at some of the reasons why we are being classified as one of the most poorest states in Nigeria. Now, what are some of these indicators that they are using it to say that we are poor? Now, one of the major indicators of poverty in an household is nutrition. Access to nutritional food that meets the dietary needs of the family or the household. Now, poverty is a measure of the quality of life of a household. And now the most vulnerable group in every household is mostly the children from the ages of 1 to 5. Now, the quality of the food that these people are able to access in an household will determine the quality of life of the children and that household. Now, when we talk about access to nutritious food that meets the dietary needs of the family, we are not just talking about eating food alone, but eating food that will give the family the necessary nutrients to grow and develop. Now, we want to look at it that what is happening in Bayelsa today. We want to look at how the children are being fed. And then we will now look at it to analyze whether we are poor or we are not poor. Now, one of the major measures of the quality of nutrition in a family starts with the babies, the children. Now, when a child is born, the recommendation is that children should be breastfed for a minimum of 6 months, exclusive breastfeeding for a minimum of 6 months. Now, I want to look at it in Bayelsa. The record shows that in Bayelsa State, about 37.2% of mothers, 37.2% of mothers that give birth to children in Bayelsa State do not practice exclusive breastfeeding. Some of them will breastfeed for 2 months, some will breastfeed for 4 months, some will breastfeed for a certain period, but 37.2% do not breastfeed, do not do exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months. Some will do the breastfeeding, but they will add complementary foods. So they are breastfeeding the child and they are giving the child water or other types of food. That is not exclusive breastfeeding. So many women in Bayelsa State are not breastfeeding exclusively for 6 months. And this lays a wrong dietary foundation for the children. So we found out that children in Bayelsa State, instead of enjoying immunity and strength that comes with the exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, are vulnerable to certain dietary shortages because of this practice. And this thing can be addressed by advocacy, educating the women, trying to help the women to ensure that they do exclusive breastfeeding for a minimum of 6 months. Exclusive in the fact that you don't even give the child water. So anytime the child needs breast or food, you give the child breast. That is what it means. That is exclusive breastfeeding. Many women in Bayelsa State don't practice it. And that is what is laying the wrong foundation for our feeding challenges in Bayelsa State. That is one of the reasons they are saying we are poor. And about 62.8% of breastfeeding mothers do not do exclusive. What they do is that they breastfeed and then they also give complementary feeding. So they are giving breast and they are giving other types of food. These ones are laying a very wrong foundation, feeding foundation for the children in such a way that it is affecting the health and the well-being of these children. When you talk in terms of nutrition, they are not getting what they are supposed to get in appropriate quantities, in inappropriate qualities. Now, the second thing that is really making us being classified as a poor state under feeding and nutrition is that we have a poor way of preparing our complementary feeding. Now, complementary feeding is an additional food that is given to the children either after the exclusive period of exclusive breastfeeding, or even when you are doing breastfeeding and then you are giving food. What type of food are you really giving to these children? What is the composition of this food? Is it a balanced diet? Sometimes we find out that most women just mix their akamu and maybe they add small milk inside and they say it's good enough. Research have shown that the complementary feedings that are used in Bayelsa State are very poor in quality. They are not balanced diet. Most of the times, the feeding, the complementary food comes with a lot of carbohydrate, with little or no proteins and other minerals and vitamins. So poor complementary feeding is another reason why we are being classified poor. So the children are eating, but they are not getting the necessary minerals and nutrients and things that they need to grow and grow healthy. So even though they are eating, the food is devoid of certain nutrients that they are supposed to get to enable them grow very well. Because of these two reasons, we have also come to find out that about 24.9% of children in Bayelsa State are stunted in growth because of poor diet. These are statistics that are available. Nobody is manufacturing these statistics. These are real statistics that have been carried out in Bayelsa State and found out that about 24.9% of children in Bayelsa State are stunted in growth. That is, they are not as tall as they are supposed to be because of poor dietary practices. Now, the other thing that really making them classify us under feeding practices that we are poor is that in most villages, especially in the riverine areas, we found out that many of those villages, the fishing ports and many villages that people live in the riverine areas don't have access to quality food. So they are eating, they have a lot of fish in such areas, but the food is not there. Imagine somebody who is eating farina, for example, and then he eats farina and you say you have eaten a diet. It's not balanced. So they don't have access to quality food. So these riverine areas, and even if the food is available, it's very expensive because of the transportation problems. Before you would transport food from the mainland to these fishing ports, the prices have gone up and many families cannot afford. So they manage with what they have, and what they are managing, what they have to manage is not nutritious enough. And children from these communities will always indicate that they are not properly fed. This is also one of the reasons that are making the statistics to show that we are poor. The other reason is that here in Bayelsa State, malaria, diarrhea, and worm infestation is very common. So you find out that many children are either suffering from malaria, diarrhea, or worm infestation. And deworming is not a common practice in Bayelsa State. So you find out that these disease conditions begin to compete with the nutrients that the children are having. Meanwhile, we are saying that the children don't even have enough nutrients to grow very well. And then coupled with malaria, diarrhea, and worm infestation, they worsen the situation and make the children lack the necessary nutrients that they will need to grow. Because the worm, the malaria, all these diseases are diseases that take a lot of nutrients. They drain the children of these basic nutrients that they need to grow in order to be able to withstand these disease conditions. So these ones can be addressed by regular deworming, provision of malaria nets to the rural women, and also making sure that complementary feedings or additional feeding, there are some basic feedings that have been, basic food items that have been produced and packaged in such a way that if given to children, they will give the children all the necessary nutrients that they need. These are the areas that the government need to look at and see how these children can be properly fed so that we can come out of this classification. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to this channel, share these videos, and make your comments. Thank you.